Okay. We, a very good morning, first of all, to all my dear students. Okay. We are in Unit 2, wherein we are studying the Part B of Unit 2. We are studying in detail the different fundamental, or we already have studied the different fundamental rights in Part A of Unit B, or you can say in Unit 2. And in the same unit, that is, we are studying in part B of that particular unit the directive principles of state policy. Okay, in our previous two classes, we dealt in detail what is the meaning of directive principles of state policy. We also understood the meaning and definition of directive principles of state policy. We spoke about the characteristics of directive principles of state policy and the different articles relating to directive principles of state policy. Students, we started understanding articles right from Article 38 to 42 in my last class. So let's start with Article 43. Students, Article 43 states that there should be living wages which should be provided to the workers. Article 43 states living wage for workers. Now, first I will explain you all what is the meaning of living wage. Students, when I speak about a living wage, a wage wherein that is enough to maintain a normal standard of living for an individual. Students, when I speak about a living wage, it is a income level which must be provided by the state, which includes the state government as well as the central government. This is an income level that allows or helps an family to afford at least the basic needs. Now, which are called as basic needs? Basic needs are physiological needs. And which are physiological needs? Which includes food, clothing, shelter. In other words, these are basic necessities which has to be provided by the state to the workers. Now, when I speak about living wage, why the constitution has adopted it? See, with a sole objective or a sole goal or a motive, so that at least the employees will be able to earn income that will satisfy at least a minimum standard of living and prevent them from poverty, students. So when I speak about living wage, you have to just relate it to basic necessities. And when I speak about basic necessities, it includes food, clothing, and shelter. Now, Article 43 clearly states that the state government shall provide, or you can say, the state government will secure, will guarantee by passing different legislations or by passing different laws wherein it will guarantee a economic system which will secure the workers or give security to the workers. Okay, now when I speak about workers, we can say workers in the category wherein they are working in any structure of the economy, whether the workers are working in the primary sector, which includes the agricultural sector, if the workers or employees are working in the manufacturing sector, that is, when I speak about manufacturing sector, it includes all the types of different industries, such as large scale industries, small scale industries, medium scale industries. And it also includes all the workers working in the tertiary sector, When I speak about tertiary sector, it includes the service sector. So when this guarantee is provided by the state to the workers, it will motivate them to earn, and at least they will be able to meet their basic needs. Which are the basic needs? Food, clothing, and shelter. And students, when I speak about assuring such type of needs, it will help them to gain at least a decent standard of living, wherein they will first of all ensure that there is full amount of employment that is taking place in our country. When there is full employment taking place in our country, what will happen? Each and every individual will earn something. When an individual is earning something, it is called as per capita income. Per capita income means income which is earned by an individual. Okay, so when the per capita income of the country increases, naturally the national income of the country increases. When the national income of the country increases, naturally our country's economy flourishes, or it will give a boost to the economic system of our country. So when I speak about living wage, wherein Article 43 states that the state guarantees to every, or should guarantee to every worker who is working in any type of sector, which includes primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector, which guarantees the workers to at least give a decent standard of living, wherein they can meet up their basic necessities. Now, when I speak about basic necessities, it includes food, clothing, and shelter. Fine? Okay. Now, when the when the country, which includes the state government and the central government, is ensuring or guaranteeing, okay, minimum wage to the workers, or you can say living wage to the workers, it also encourages small scale industries. It also encourages large scale industries. It also encourages medium scale industries. But when I speak about Article 43, mainly their sole motive is to encourage the cottage and the small scale industries, which are called as SSIs, that is small scale industries, students, because these small scale industries are established in smaller towns, villages, and backward areas, wherein there are individuals dwelling there or living there, and they do not have any other source of income. So, if such industries are established in those backward areas, then what will happen is those industries will provide employment. When those industries are providing employment, what will happen? An individual, a citizen, a worker will able to earn something for their livelihood, and at least they will be able to meet their basic needs, which are called as, or which can be categorized into, wherein they will be able to meet their earnings to earn or to live for their basic meeting the basic necessities. Okay, now let's see what Article 43A says. Students, Article 43 states that the state should provide willing, or you can say living wages for the workers. Now, when I speak about living wages, they can be called as minimum wages, which should be guaranteed to the workers, wherein they will be able to have a decent standard of living, wherein they will be able to meet their basic necessities, which includes food, clothing, and shelter. Now, I will move to the next, in the same article, the next subdivision, Article 43A. Article 43A states that there should be participation of workers in the management of the industries. Now, students, I see, you know that in every industry, okay, there is a hierarchy. Okay. Hierarchy flows with top level management, the middle level management, and the operational level management. Okay. The top level management consists of different executives, different professionals. The middle level includes the people who are managing, who are called as the managers, and the lower level management includes the operational level people. Now, what happens is the hierarchy flows from top to down, that is, from top level management to the lower level management. Now, what happens is in any industries, the lower level management reports to the medium level management, that is, the managers, and the managers report to the top level management. But what happened is during previous decades, the lower level workers were being exploited. And what happened is they had no say, or they did not have a assurity wherein they can speak, or they could speak in the working of the industry. So the framers of the constitution thought that this should be made as a directive principle of state policy, wherein they should include the workers to have a say or participate in the overall management of the industries. So, what happened is during this time, the industrialists guaranteed that if the worker belonged to medium level management, if the worker is from a lower level management, irrespective of that, he or she will be able to participate in the overall working of the industrial sector, wherein each and every employee will be given chance to put forth their opinion, to have a say, and very importantly, the state assured the workers that if there is some issue, if they are facing some problems, they can directly report to the management of the industries. Hence, this article guaranteed that any worker belonging to any level of hierarchy, whether he is working in the middle level, whether he is working in the operational level, whether he is working in the top level, will have a right to say, or will have a right to participate in the overall working or in the overall management of industries. Next, in the same article, let us deal with Article 43B. Now, it speaks about promotion of cooperative societies. Students, when the directive principles of state policy were, you can say, framed, at that point of time, this article was not included. But what happened is, I told you, there can be amendments made whenever there is a need, or when it is according to the need of the hour. New changes can be made to the constitution of our country in the form of amendments. And Article 43B was being included in the directive principles of state policy, wherein it spoke about promotion of cooperative societies. Now, students, I will explain you all what is the meaning of cooperative society. A cooperative society, you can regard it as an organization wherein, see, now when I speak about any organization, or when I speak about any business activity, when I speak about any, you can say, any commercial activity, this is started with the sole intention to earn profits. Okay. Now, when I speak about cooperative society, students, these are the societies, these are the corporations, or these are the organizations which are started not with a motive to earn profits, but with a sole motive or a sole intention wherein they want to serve the society, they want to provide assistance to the society, they want to help the society, and they do not want to earn profits. Their motive is not to earn profits. Here, when I speak about cooperative society students, the people working in these cooperative societies come together voluntarily. Voluntarily means according to their own wish and desire. Nobody is forcing them to join these cooperative societies. Any individual of the country who thinks that he wants to serve the society, he wants to help the society, comes together in this cooperative societies organizations voluntarily. And very important, when I speak about this cooperative society, they have a democratic formation wherein the management or the managing committee of this cooperative society, students, there the members of those managing committee are elected and not selected. Means they are not selected wherein how much investment they are making, those will become. No, here it is according wherein each member will have a right to vote. Every member will vote and vote for the people, and these will be considered in the management or managing the entire cooperative society. So, what happens is when I speak about cooperative societies, earlier this article was not been included in the constitution in the category of directive principles of state policy. But later, with due amendment, this article was being incorporated wherein the state thought that the state should promote such type of cooperative societies. Why they should promote the cooperative societies? Because these are the organizations which help the society to be fair, to be social, to be economical in order. Because when I speak about directive principles of state policy, they aim at assuring the citizens of a country a welfare state wherein there is economic justice provided to the individuals as well as social justice which has been provided to the individuals. Okay, so this is all about Article 43. Once more, I will repeat Article 43. The first part of Article 43 of Directive Principles of State Policy states that the state have to provide living wage for all the workers. When I speak about living wage, it includes that the state should provide basic necessities. Now, which are the basic necessities? Which help them to maintain at least a basic and a basics or a decent standard of living, which is in the form of food, which is in the form of shelter and clothing. Next, when I speak about Article 43A, it says that there should be participation of workers in the management of the industries. Students, the state assures that you belong to any hierarchy, whether you're working in a middle level or you're working in an operational level, you have a stand, you have a say, you have a right wherein you can express your opinion in the overall management or working of the industries. Next, Article 43B says that there should be promotion of cooperative societies. When I speak about promotion of cooperative societies, means these are the societies wherein there is voluntary. Voluntary means people come together, okay, according to their wish, according to their will, according to their desire. Nobody is forcing them, okay, and these are the societies wherein they are working for the development or for providing assistance to the society. They do not have an objective to earn profits. Okay, with this, we finish Article 43 and let us move to the next article, which is Article 44. Now, when I speak about Article 44, students, Article 44 states that there should be uniform civil code for all the citizens. See, this article is most easiest article. See, when you are a citizen of a country, okay, and you are living in any part of the territory, or you are living anywhere in the within the boundaries of the country, you will be applied, or the application of all the rights, all the duties will be equal to all the citizens. That means that when I'm speaking about uniform civil code, students, uniform means what? Similar. Uniform means what? Universal. It means same civil code. Civil code means what? What are the civil rights? Which includes social rights, which includes political rights, which includes human rights, legal rights. All these different types of rights will be guaranteed or assured to all the citizens of the country. When I speak about Article 44, it states that uniform civil code for all the citizens of the country. It states that the state will guarantee, the state will assure that whether you belong to any caste, you belong to any religion, you are from any creed, you are having any societal status, if you're rich, you're poor, if you're professional, if you're literate, you're illiterate, okay, the the country assures you a equal wherein platform wherein there is equal rights, equal duties, uniform, similar code, similar rules, similar duties which has to be applied to all the citizens. You cannot bifurcate, you cannot divide the citizen saying that he is educated, he is not educated, he is a male, she is a female, or maybe she belongs to this religion, she belongs to another religion. No, you all come under the category of citizen. We are united, and hence, when I speak about unity, the code is also universally or uniformly applied to all the citizens. You belong to any. Now, when I speak about code, it includes all the legal rights, political rights, social rights, economical rights. Same way, economical duties, social duties, or legal duties, etc. Every little thing which is guaranteed by the constitutional framers in the constitution is equally being applied universally, uniformly to all the citizens of the country. Okay, now let's move to the next article. Article 45. Article 45 states that there should be provision which should be given by the state wherein it should assure free and compulsory education for the children of our country. Students, when I speak about this article, which is a very, very important article, which states that the state shall provide free. Free means no fees will be applied or charged, and the state shall make it mandatory. The state has to make a compulsion wherein all the children in our country should be at least provided basic education. See, it is very much essential because it will help in the growth and the development of the country. So, see, there are n number of citizens in our country who are illiterate. The Constitution has included this article with the sole motive that no citizen in our country should be deprived, no citizen should be exploited, and the state guarantees or assures that there should be free and compulsory education for children. Now, the education limit, or they will be able to, the state will provide them free education up to the age of 14 years. So, according to my knowledge, okay, at the age of 16 years, you complete 10th standard. Okay, it is not confirmed, means it is not, you can say that it is just an estimate. It may range from 15, 16, or 17, okay, according to your admission in the schools. But when I say that the state has assured free and compulsory education up to the age of 14 years, means your basic primary from first to fourth and fifth, sixth, seventh. That is higher primary. Okay. Now, you must have heard a concept called as the state provides or the government provides midday meals. Okay. Why? Because this will attract children to come to school, because there are family students or there are citizens in our country who cannot even afford the basic necessities like food, and they will not be able to provide their children even two meals a day, not even one meal a day. So if this scheme is being attached, wherein the government feels that, first of all, when they are providing free and compulsory education, children are going to be educated. At the same time, when they're providing such meals, it will also help those children, wherein they will be able to have at least one time meal. They will at least have some nutritious calories in their body, and hence with the sole motive that our country should be literate country, at least basic education should be provided. Hence this is a, you can say, a directive principle of state policy, wherein the state government completely runs a school or educational institution wherein they provide free and compulsory education for the children up to the age of 14 years. Is this clear? Okay. Let's move to the next article. Article 46 states that there should be promotion of educational and economic interest of scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and other weaker sections. Students, when I was teaching your fundamental rights, also, I told you that in the previous decades, these different types of backward classes, such as scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and other weaker sections of the society, were being deprived of their rights, were being exploited. And this Article 46 says that the state shall take special care, wherein the state shall promote educational and economic interest, especially to the weaker sections of the society. They will assure and guarantee the promotion of educational institutes in the interest of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. And why this article has been incorporated? This article has been incorporated so that they protect them from exploitation and they protect them from social injustice. Students, when I speak about promotion of educational and economic interest, the state assures the SCs and STs and any other weaker section wherein they promote or guarantee that they will be given special privilege because these were the sections of the society which were harassed, which were exploited, which were deprived of their rights. And there are special privileges given by the state, which includes the state government and central government, in the form of reservations, wherein you have some seats which are completely reserved only for scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and weaker sections of the society. This is done so with the sole motive to promote these people in order to gain education and in order to promote themselves. Students, when I speak about Article 46, it is a very beautiful article wherein they are promoting the backward classes which were deprived of their rights. And very, very importantly, when I speak about this article, they want to have the directive principles of the state policy aims to have a fair society wherein there should be no injustice caused. And once if you support such caste or such sections of the society which were deprived, which were exploited, and if the state is guaranteeing them special rights, special privilege, then at that point of time, a situation will be there, or it will result in a situation wherein there will be equal justice, fair society indulging in our country. So when I speak about Article 46, it says that the state shall take special care. The state shall take special privileges wherein it will secure and guarantee the weaker sections of the society. Okay, let's move to the next article. Article 47. Students, when I speak about Article 47, it states that it is the duty of the state to raise the level of nutrition and standard of living and improve the public health. This article is correlative to Article 43, which spoke about living wages. Now, when I speak about this article, now here the state guarantees wherein it thinks to increase or raise the level of nutrition in the society, wherein it assures a minimum standard of living and tries to improve or concentrates on the health of an individuals or health of the public. Now what happens is, students, the government of our country has established a food system, or you can say a food security system, wherein the government of our country, you must be knowing, that distributes food, or you can say food items, to the weaker section of the society. And when I speak about distributing food or food items, these are being distributed at a very subsidized rate. Now, see, you all must be knowing that there are some commodities, okay, which includes all the staple food. Then I can give you example of wheat, rice, okay, then sugar, then essentials, kerosene, and these are available to all the citizens at a fair price shop. Now, fair price shop means it is also known as ration shops, wherein these are established in several states across the country. See, you have to follow a protocol wherein there are different cards given to every family according to the members of the family. There are several provisions also attached to it, wherein you have three different types of colors for that card. You have BPL card, below poverty line, right? You have different cards wherein the government procures and tries to give you at least essential commodities wherein you'll be at least able to meet up a minimum nutritious level which is required to maintain a healthy life. I gave you example wherein how does the state helps in raising the level of nutrition. Once more I'm telling you, the state provides essential commodities, okay, to the citizens of the country, wherein they provide you essential commodities in the form of different food commodities. I gave you examples also of different good food commodities, and these are available at fair shops, that is, ration shops in short, wherein you belong to any society, you belong to any caste, creed, etc. You have to be a citizen of a country in order to avail this right. So, students, this is wholly managed by the government of the country, wherein the government, by providing such nutritious level or nutritious items, assures that at least basic they think of improving the health of the individuals of the country, and also tries to raise the standard of living among the individuals. Okay, now let's move to the next article, which states that Article 48 speaks about organization of agriculture and animal husbandry. Students, you must be knowing that agriculture is considered to be the backbone of the country. Why it has been regarded as the backbone of the country? Because the contribution of this sector, or the contribution got from this sector to the national economy, is largest. They contribute to the national income of the country, wherein the state assures that there should be proper organization of agriculture and animal husbandry, wherein the state shall see to it that proper steps are being taken in upgrading or organizing the agricultural activities. And very importantly, when I speak about the other part, when I speak about animal husbandry, the state shall also take steps wherein they will try to protect, they will try to preserve the breeds. Example I can give you. The state prohibits from slaughter of cows, calves, etc. So what are they doing? They are protecting, they are preserving. See, when I speak about organization of culture, agriculture also, students, the state is trying to develop the sector which is called as agricultural sector, which includes all the agricultural activities and allied activities. The state is also establishing different financial institutions which provides help or assistance to the agricultural sector. There are different cooperative societies which are established. There are different financial and commercial institutions which are established to help only this type of a sector. Wherein, so that with the adoption of this economic system, the agriculturalists or farmers can adopt to the different methods, improvise their level of technology, and which will result in greater production of goods and commodities, which includes the grains, which includes the different agricultural products, which will give a rise to different agricultural products, and which can be circulated or distributed not only within the boundaries of our country, but if the production of agricultural items are huge, we can also export to the other countries. Export means sell commodities to other countries and gain profits. Next, Article 48A speaks about protection and improvement of environment and safeguarding of forest and wildlife. See, it is a duty of the state to protect the environment. It is duty of the state to safeguard the forest, which will bring in balance of environment. It is a duty of the state to maintain the wildlife. You'll have seen different centuries wherein there is different lives which are protected. Okay, you have a bird sanctuary. Okay, you have different zoos wherein what happens? These are all controlled by the government. You have different forests which are solely being safeguarded by the government. So it is their duty to protect and to improve the environment. Now let's move to the next article, which speaks about Article 49. Students, Article 49 states that there should be protection of monuments and places of objects of national importance. Students, when I speak about this article, it states that it is an obligation, it is a responsibility of the state to protect every historical monument or objects of historic interest. And these monuments have to be declared by the parliament that they are of national importance. And very importantly, these have to be safeguarded. This have to be safeguarded from the destruction which takes place. Okay? So it is the duty of the state to protect the monuments of the country. Next, Article 50 speaks about separation of judiciary from executive. When I was explaining you all the first unit, I told you there are three organs, which starts with legislature, executive, and judiciary. So what happens is directive principles of state policy separates all these three organs. Nobody shall interfere in the working of anything, any organ. Legislature should not interfere in judiciary, judiciary should not interfere in executive, and very importantly, this article speaks about separation of powers from judiciary or of judiciary from the executive. All these three organs are separate. Nobody should interfere in the working of each other. The last article, which speaks about Article 51, wherein it says that it is the duty of the state to promote or in the promotion of international peace and security. Students, when I speak about international peace, when I speak about international, you're not restricting to the boundaries of your own country. When it is international, you are interactive with the different countries. So, directive principle of state policy states that the state should promote international peace. It should promote international security. It should maintain just and honorable relations. They should not go into enmity. You should foster, you should educate what is the international law, what are the dealings taking place. You should think for, and even though, think if there is some amount of dispute which is happening between two countries, then there should be a arbitration which should be formed, wherein there should be a mediator to solve the issues between the two countries. You should not declare enmity. You should see to it that you are working hand in hand with all the different, you can say, different countries and trying to maintain peace, friendly relationships, because there are lots of issues wherein what you trade with the other countries, you export items, you import items, you have securital issues with the other country, and you deal in lot of dealings with the international countries. At that point of time, the state, wherein it includes the state government and central government, should see to it that there is peace maintained. Now, When I speak about implementation of this directive principles of state policy, students, the government has taken lots of efforts wherein they are providing free education up to the age of 14 years. They are introducing various schemes wherein they are providing midday meals so that there are no school dropouts. There are special concessions which are given to the students belonging to SCs, STs. There are hostel facilities which are provided to SCs and STs. They have removed the concept of untouchability. They have taken into consideration a principle called as equal wage principle, wherein there is equal remuneration which is given to the genders. Then they are thinking of incorporating village panchayats. Then they are thinking wherein the concentration of economic power is divided. Now, when I speak about critical evaluation about this directive principles, students, you have to understand that when I speak about this directive principles, I told you they are non justifiable, means they are not enforceable by law, and hence they do not carry any sort of sanctions with them. Students, this is the reason why they are a neglected part of the Indian constitution. But it is when I speak about a critical evaluation, students, I'm speaking about a negative note wherein there are many